Children of the Sun. Part 1, Whispers in the Archives. 6 months had passed since the Blackwood Manor scandal. The rain-battered walls now gleamed under a fresh coat of paint, and a somber hush had settled over the once opulent residence. Lady Lavinia, finally free from the shackles of her late husband's cruelty, had sold the manor and retreated to a quiet life in the countryside. Inspector Riley, lauded for his sharp mind and unyielding pursuit of justice, found himself restless. The whispers of the raven echoed in his mind, a chilling reminder that the story wasn't quite over. His solace came in the form of dusty tomes and cryptic documents in the Grand Library of Scotland Yard. He'd been assigned to a cold case review, the disappearance of Professor Alastair Thorne, a renowned archaeologist who vanished 3 years prior while on an expedition in the jungles of Peru. The official report deemed it a tragic accident, but Riley's gut told him otherwise. As he delved deeper into the case files, a familiar name leaped out at him: Lord Blackwood. The deceased nobleman had funded Professor Thorne's expedition, a fact not mentioned in the initial reports. The pieces began to fall into place. Could there be a connection between Blackwood's smuggling operation and Thorne's disappearance? Was the Raven pulling strings from the shadows, orchestrating events with a sinister purpose? Riley's investigation led him to Professor Amelia Thorne, the missing archaeologist's niece. A brilliant scholar with a fiery spirit that mirrored his own, Amelia was determined to find the truth about her uncle's fate. Together, they formed an unlikely alliance, their combined expertise proving invaluable in deciphering the cryptic clues left behind. Professor Thorne's research focused on a lost civilization known as the Children of the Sun, an advanced culture rumored to have possessed incredible knowledge about astronomy and metallurgy. His notes detailed a series of hidden symbols discovered on ancient pottery shards, symbols that bore a striking resemblance to the markings found in the stolen artifacts from Blackwood Manor. Days bled into weeks as Riley and Amelia meticulously scanned historical documents and consulted with experts in ancient languages. They discovered the symbols were a form of proto-writing, a precursor to the Incan language. Painstakingly, they began to translate the messages, revealing a chilling revelation. The Children of the Sun spoke of a hidden temple, a repository of their knowledge, located deep within the Amazon rainforest. Meanwhile, a new player entered the game. A shadowy figure known as the Collector, a ruthless antiquities dealer rumored to possess an insatiable hunger for lost treasures, became aware of their activities. Through a network of informants, he learned of the connection between Blackwood, Thorne, and the hidden temple. The Collector saw a potential fortune in the artifacts and dispatched his own team of mercenaries to secure them. Chapter 3: The Serpent's Embrace. Facing threats from the Collector's goons and the perils of the rainforest itself, Riley and Amelia embarked on a perilous journey to the heart of the Amazon. They recruited the help of Kaya, a fierce young woman from a native tribe who possessed an intimate knowledge of the jungle's secrets. Kaya, haunted by her own tragic past, found a kinship in Riley's relentless pursuit of justice. Their trek took them through treacherous swamps teeming with venomous creatures, across rickety rope bridges spanning yawning chasms, and through dense undergrowth where sunlight barely penetrated. The humid air hung heavy with the cacophony of unseen insects and the constant threat of unseen dangers. But fueled by their desire for truth and justice, they pressed on. Finally, after weeks of relentless travel, they stumbled upon it, the lost temple of the Children of the Sun. A magnificent structure carved from emerald green stone, it stood shrouded in mist, an ancient sentinel guarding its secrets. However, they weren't the only ones who had reached their destination. The Collector's mercenaries awaited, their eyes glinting with greed. An epic showdown was about to unfold. Part 2: Temple of Whispers. The Emerald Temple loomed before them, a stark contrast to the vibrant jungle canopy. Its smooth, moss-covered stones seemed to absorb the dappled sunlight, casting an air of mystery. Riley, Amelia, and Kaya crouched behind a fallen log, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Through the dense foliage, they glimpsed the Collector's mercenaries, their heavily armed figures a stark contrast to their own worn backpacks and makeshift weapons. "There are too many of them," whispered Amelia, her hand tightening around a machete. "We need a diversion." Kaya, her dark eyes glinting with defiance, spoke in a low voice. "There's an old trail my people used to avoid rival tribes. It leads around the temple, but it's overgrown and dangerous." "We can't afford to be picky," Riley said, his jaw set. "Kaya, you lead the way. Amelia, cover us." Kaya disappeared into the undergrowth, a silent wraith blending with the shadows. Amelia raised her trusty slingshot, aiming a smooth pellet at a canister strapped to a mercenary's back. It hit its mark with a satisfying thud, releasing a cloud of red dust. The mercenaries, momentarily blinded and disoriented, opened fire in all directions. Using the chaos as cover, Riley and Kaya scrambled through the overgrown trail. Thorns ripped at their clothes, and unseen insects swarmed around them. The thick foliage choked the air, making breathing a struggle. Finally, they emerged on the opposite side of the temple, hidden from the mercenaries' view. The temple entrance was an imposing archway guarded by intricately carved statues depicting beings that resembled humans with elongated skulls and celestial symbols decorating their bodies. As Riley placed his hand on the cool stone, a hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow passage. "This must be it," Amelia said, her voice filled with awe. They entered the passage, their headlamps illuminating damp walls decorated with faded murals depicting swirling galaxies and celestial bodies. The air grew heavy with the scent of dust and forgotten time. After navigating a series of twisting tunnels, they emerged into a vast chamber. The chamber was breathtaking. A dome of polished obsidian reflected the light from their headlamps, creating a mesmerizing spectacle. In the center stood a massive pedestal, upon which rested a crystal sphere that pulsed with an ethereal glow. Intricate symbols adorned the pedestal, mirroring those Professor Thorne found on the pottery shards. "This must be..." Amelia started, her voice barely a whisper. "The power source of the Children of the Sun," Riley finished, his gaze fixed on the pulsating sphere. Suddenly, a chilling voice echoed through the chamber. "So, the tenacious Inspector Riley and his companions have finally arrived." A cloaked figure emerged from the shadows. Tall and gaunt, their face shrouded in darkness, it exuded an aura of power and menace. In their hand, they clutched a silver raven pendant, a symbol that sent shivers down Riley's spine. "The raven," Riley growled, his hand instinctively reaching for his revolver. "You've been meddling in affairs beyond your comprehension, Inspector," the raven hissed. "The secrets of the Children of the Sun are not for the likes of you." The Collector's mercenaries, alerted by the disturbance, burst into the chamber, their guns trained on Riley and his companions. Amelia and Kaya instinctively took cover behind the pedestal. The raven, their true objective seemingly forgotten, raised their hand, the silver pendant catching the light. "These artifacts belong to me," the raven declared, their voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. "And any who stand in my way will face the consequences." A blinding light erupted from the silver pendant, bathing the chamber in a white glow. When the light subsided, the raven was gone. The mercenaries stood frozen in place, their eyes glazed over. Only Riley, Amelia, and Kaya remained, unharmed but utterly bewildered. "What just happened?" Amelia gasped, staring at the spot where the raven had stood mere moments ago. Riley retrieved the silver pendant from the floor. It felt warm in his hand, thrumming with an unseen energy. "I don't know," he admitted, a knot of unease twisting in his gut. "But I have a feeling it's just the beginning." As they explored the chamber further, they discovered a trove of ancient artifacts, golden masks, intricately carved figurines, and scrolls inscribed in a language unknown to them. But their celebration was short-lived. The mercenaries, their eyes now vacant and lifeless, began to stir, their movements jerky and robotic. "Mind control?" Amelia muttered, drawing her slingshot once more. Part 3, Echoes of the Past. The once human soldiers charged, their eyes devoid of any spark of humanity. Riley and Amelia fought back, desperation fueling their movements. But the sheer number of the reanimated mercenaries swarmed like mindless ants. Amelia, dodging a clumsy swing, launched a perfectly aimed pellet, striking a pressure point and sending one of the attackers crashing to the ground. Riley, his revolver spitting fire, managed to disable another. But for every one they took down, two more seemed to rise. Kaya, a blur of movement and focused fury, weaved through the attackers, her machete a deadly silver streak. Her knowledge of the jungle and close-quarter combat proved invaluable. "We need to get out of here," she shouted above the din. But escape seemed impossible. The chamber entrance was blocked by the fallen bodies of mercenaries, and the only other passage led deeper into the temple's labyrinthine depths. Suddenly, a booming voice resonated through the chamber, the ancient words echoing off the obsidian walls. The glowing crystal sphere on the pedestal pulsed with renewed intensity. The reanimated mercenaries, as if struck by a sudden wave of pain, crumpled to the floor. Riley, Amelia, and Kaya stood frozen, unsure of what had just happened. Then, a holographic projection materialized above the pedestal, a shimmering blue figure with long, flowing robes and an ethereal presence. "Welcome, seekers of knowledge," the figure spoke, its voice a soothing melody. "I am Ire, guardian of this temple and keeper of the Children of the Sun's legacy." Amelia and Riley exchanged astonished glances. A hologram? An ancient guardian spirit? The world was spinning a bit too fast. Ire continued, explaining the history of the Children of the Sun. They were indeed an advanced civilization, possessing knowledge far beyond their time. They harnessed the power of the cosmos to develop incredible technologies and a deep understanding of the universe. However, their reliance on this power ultimately led to their downfall. Ire gestured to the crystal sphere. "This artifact, the Sunstone, channels the very energy of the cosmos. In the wrong hands, it can be a weapon of unimaginable power. The Raven seeks its control, for they thirst for dominion over the world." Riley finally found his voice. "The Raven used a pendant to control those mercenaries." "What was that?" "A fragment of an ancient device," Ire explained. The Raven seeks to combine it with the Sunstone to unlock its full potential. You must stop them. Ire then revealed a holographic map of the temple. There is a hidden passage leading out of the temple complex. It will take you close to the collector's base camp. Use it wisely. With that, the hologram flickered and faded. The air grew heavy with silence, broken only by the ragged breaths of Riley, Amelia, and Kaya. The weight of the revelation settled upon them. The fate of the world, it seemed, rested on their shoulders. They hurried towards the hidden passage, a narrow tunnel concealed behind a fallen statue. The passage led them on a perilous journey through damp caverns and crumbling tunnels. Finally, they emerged into a dense thicket of foliage just beyond the temple complex. Ahead, they saw the telltale smoke plumes rising from the collector's makeshift base camp. They knew the clock was ticking. They had to find a way to infiltrate the base, retrieve whatever the Raven needed to control the Sunstone, and hopefully, find a way to stop them before they unleashed its destructive power. As they formulated a plan, a sense of foreboding washed over them. The fight for the Sunstone had just begun, and the enemy remained terrifyingly unknown. The Raven was a cunning and ruthless adversary, and they had no idea what other sinister forces they might encounter in the heart of the Amazon. Part 4, Shadows and Secrets. Crouching beneath the dense canopy, Riley, Amelia, and Kaya surveyed the collector's base camp. A cluster of tents huddled together, guarded by heavily armed mercenaries patrolling the perimeter. Smoke curled from a central fire pit where figures moved in the flickering light. "We need to get in there," Amelia whispered, her voice tense. "But how?" Riley studied the camp layout. "There's a power generator on the far side. If we can disable it, the sudden darkness might create a distraction." Kaya pointed towards a barely visible path leading through the undergrowth. "That could be a back entrance. Maybe it leads to the storage tents." A plan, though risky, began to take shape. Riley, with his police training, volunteered to take out the generator. Amelia, armed with her slingshot and a newfound sense of urgency, would create a diversion by starting a fire on the opposite side of the camp. Kaya, her natural agility a perfect fit for the task, would take the back entrance and try to locate the Raven's operation. As dusk settled over the jungle, casting long shadows that danced with the flickering firelight, Riley crept towards the generator. The air grew thick with the smell of diesel fuel and the hum of the powerful engine. He pulled out a small explosive device he'd managed to salvage from a fallen mercenary. With a silent prayer, he attached it to the generator and retreated to a safe distance. A fiery explosion ripped through the night, sending shockwaves through the camp. The generator sputtered and died, plunging the base into darkness. Chaos erupted. Shouts and panicked yells filled the air as the mercenaries scrambled for their flashlights and weapons. Amelia, using a handful of chemicals scavenged from the temple, lit a small fire that erupted in a vibrant purple flame. The unexpected color and sudden light source further disoriented the mercenaries, creating a perfect window of opportunity. Kaya, using her knowledge of the jungle and the fading light to her advantage, slipped through the undergrowth and found the back entrance. It led to a series of storage tents overflowing with crates and looted artifacts. As she delved deeper, she stumbled upon a makeshift laboratory, its equipment humming with a strange energy. In the center of the lab stood a figure cloaked in darkness, fiddling with a complex device that pulsed with an eerie blue glow. It was the Raven. They turned their head towards Kaya, their eyes glowing like embers in the dim light. "So, the little jungle cat decided to join the party," the Raven hissed, their voice laced with amusement. Kaya, her heart pounding in her chest, stood her ground. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Perfecting my masterpiece," the Raven cackled, gesturing towards the device. "This, my dear, is the key to unlocking the full power of the Sunstone. With it, I will reshape the world in my image." Before Kaya could react, the Raven activated the device. A surge of energy crackled through the lab, knocking Kaya back with a force that sent a jolt of pain through her body. As she lay dazed and disoriented, the Raven grabbed a strange amulet from a nearby table and slipped it around their neck. Suddenly, the stolen artifacts in the storage tents began to glow with an ominous light. An unseen power pulsed through the air, causing tremors that shook the very ground. Panic welled up within Kaya. The Raven was unlocking the Sunstone's power, and the consequences were about to be unleashed. At that moment, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. "Leave her alone." Amelia, wielding her slingshot like a seasoned warrior, stood at the entrance of the lab. Riley, his face grim, entered after her, his revolver aimed squarely at the Raven. "This ends now," Riley growled. The Raven, their eyes ablaze with power, let out a chilling laugh. "You fools! You have no idea what you've unleashed." The ground split open, and a wave of blinding light erupted from the fissure. As they shielded their eyes, Kaya screamed. When the light subsided, the lab was empty. The Raven had vanished, along with the strange device and the amulet. Only the tremors and the eerie glow emanating from the artifacts remained as a chilling testament to the power that had been unleashed. Part 5, Echoes of the Ancients. Shaken but determined, Riley, Amelia, and Kaya stumbled out of the ravaged laboratory. The once orderly base camp was in ruins. The tremor had toppled tents, scattered supplies, and most alarmingly, awakened a horde of venomous snakes that slithered among the debris, hissing their displeasure. "We need to get out of here," Kaya shouted, dodging a lunging viper. "Agreed," Amelia replied, her voice tight. "But where's the raven?" Riley scanned the area, his face grim. "They're gone. No sign of them, or the device." Suddenly, a booming voice echoed through the clearing. "Foolish mortals! You have tampered with forces beyond your comprehension." The voice, emanating from the direction of the temple, seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It resonated with a deep, ancient power that sent shivers down their spines. "Who's there?" Amelia called out, her voice trembling slightly. "I am Zolitl, guardian of the underworld." The voice boomed. "And you have unleashed a chaotic energy that threatens to consume your world." Kaya, familiar with legends of the Mayan pantheon, gasped. Zolitl, the trickster god of fire and death, was a powerful entity not to be trifled with. "We didn't mean to," Riley said, stepping forward. "The raven was trying to use the sunstone for evil. We're just trying to stop them." Zolitl's voice softened slightly. "The raven is a cunning deceiver, driven by a thirst for power. They have awakened the sunstone's destructive potential. But within the temple lies the key to restore balance." A flicker of hope ignited in Amelia's eyes. "What key?" "The Codex Solis," Zolitl replied. "An ancient text containing the knowledge of the children of the sun. It holds the instructions to harness the sunstone's power for good and seal the rift you have inadvertently opened." Understanding dawned on Riley. "So, we need to find the Codex before the raven does." "Indeed," Zolitl boomed. "But beware, the temple holds many secrets and deadly traps. Only those worthy can navigate its depths." Following a series of cryptic instructions imparted by Zolitl, they ventured back into the temple. The air inside was thick with a malevolent energy, pulsating with the chaotic power unleashed by the raven. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, casting an eerie luminescence. They encountered booby traps, hidden chambers filled with poisonous insects, and spectral guardians that materialized from the shadows, their wrath fueled by the disrupted harmony. Through cunning teamwork and quick thinking, they navigated the treacherous halls. Kaya, with her agility and knowledge of the jungle, led them through crumbling tunnels. Amelia, her knowledge of ancient languages coming into play, deciphered cryptic inscriptions that revealed the way forward. Riley, his experience with danger honed by years in the police force, protected them from the temple's hidden perils. Finally, they reached a hidden chamber deep within the temple heart. In its center stood a pedestal bathed in an ethereal golden light. Upon it rested a massive book, its pages shimmering with an otherworldly energy. This was the Codex Solis. As they reached for the book, a chilling cackle filled the chamber. The raven materialized from the shadows, their eyes burning with a malevolent crimson light. The amulet they wore pulsed with a chaotic energy. "You think you can thwart me?" The raven sneered. "The power of the sunstone is mine. Soon, the world will tremble at my feet." A fierce battle ensued. Riley, his revolver firing with deadly accuracy, held off the raven's minions, a band of warriors reanimated through the stolen artifact's corrupted power. Amelia, using her slingshot and knowledge of improvised weaponry, fought with the ferocity of a cornered tigress. Kaya, a blur of motion and deadly strikes, disabled the reanimated warriors with her machete. But the raven remained untouched. Their amulet pulsed with an otherworldly power, deflecting bullets and blasts of energy. They launched a bolt of pure darkness at Amelia, but Riley pushed her out of the way, taking the full force of the attack. He crumpled to the ground, unmoving. A primal scream tore from Amelia's throat. Grief threatened to consume her, but she pushed it down, fueled by a desperate need to stop the raven. Just then, Kaya, noticing a forgotten weapon on the wall, a ceremonial spear imbued with celestial energy, lunged at the raven. The spear flew true, piercing the amulet and sending a shockwave through the chamber. The raven shrieked as the amulet shattered, its fragments dissolving into wisps of dark smoke. The chaotic energy subsided. The reanimated warriors crumbled to dust, the stolen artifacts losing their unnatural glow. A hush fell over the chamber, broken only by Amelia's ragged breaths and the steady thump of Riley's heart, thankfully, still beating. Relief washed over Kaya, a wave that threatened to buckle her knees. But the victory was bittersweet. Riley lay on the ground, his eyes closed, his breathing shallow. Amelia rushed to his side, her voice choked with worry. "Riley! Wake up!" Kaya grabbed Amelia's arm, her eyes scanning the chamber. We need to get him out of here. The Codex Solis. With newfound urgency, they carefully lifted Riley and carried him out of the chamber. The journey back through the temple's labyrinthine halls was agonizingly slow. Finally, they emerged into the cool night air, collapsing onto the damp earth outside the temple entrance. Kaya gently placed the Codex Solis on Riley's chest. Its golden light seemed to emanate a soothing warmth. The book, she whispered, her voice strained. Maybe it can help him. Amelia clutched Riley's hand, willing him to wake up. As if in response, his eyelids fluttered open. He looked weak and disoriented, but alive. Relief flooded Amelia's face. Amelia? He croaked, his voice hoarse. What happened? We got the Codex, Amelia replied, her voice thick with emotion. The raven is gone, but you. Riley winced, the memory of the raven's attack flashing through his mind. It's just a scratch, he mumbled, trying to convince himself more than her. Suddenly, the air shimmered, and Zolitl's voice boomed once more. You have retrieved the Codex, mortals. Now, use its wisdom to heal the rift and restore balance. A holographic map materialized above the Codex, depicting the location of the rift, a swirling vortex of chaotic energy deep within the temple complex. The image flickered, revealing instructions on how to use the book's knowledge to create a harmonic resonance, one that would seal the rift and neutralize the Sunstone's destructive power. We have to do it, Amelia said, her jaw set. For the world, for Riley. Exhausted but determined, they followed the map's instructions. The journey back into the temple was fraught with a different kind of danger. The chaotic energy emanating from the rift pulsed with a maddening intensity, threatening to unravel their sanity. Yet, fueled by their determination, they pressed on. Finally, they reached the rift. It was a terrifying sight, a swirling vortex of raw energy that threatened to consume everything in its path. As Amelia opened the Codex, its pages glowed with an ethereal light. Following the instructions, they performed a series of intricate rituals outlined in the ancient text. The chamber thrummed with a powerful energy. Chants in a forgotten language flowed from Amelia's lips, guided by the Codex. Kaya, her body infused with the spirit of the jungle, channeled the natural energy of the forest to amplify the ritual. Riley, though still weak, offered his unwavering support. Slowly, a counterpoint to the chaotic energy began to build. The Codex pulsed with a radiant golden light that met the darkness of the rift head-on. The two forces battled within the chamber, shaking the very foundations of the temple. Just as the darkness seemed about to engulf them all, a blinding light erupted from the Codex. The rift shrieked and contracted, its chaotic energy dissolving into nothingness. A wave of serenity washed over the chamber, the temple walls regaining their stability. They emerged from the chamber, exhausted but triumphant. The Sunstone's power had been neutralized, the rift sealed. The stolen artifacts, deprived of their chaotic energy, lay dormant once more. As dawn painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, they knew they had averted a global catastrophe. But their journey wasn't over. The secrets of the Children of the Sun remained within the Codex Solis, waiting to be unraveled. The raven might be gone, but were they truly defeated, or simply biding their time? And what of Zolitl, the enigmatic guardian of the underworld? Their encounter with the ancient power had forever changed them, leaving them with a newfound respect for the delicate balance between worlds. As they stood amidst the ruins of the temple complex, a sense of hope mingled with uncertainty. The future was unwritten, but they faced it together, forever bound by their shared experience and the legacy of the Children of the Sun.
Subscribe for more.